Georgia had their second scrimmage, which I think is commonly believed to be the most important scrimmage. And then I think we found out that it's going to be the last scrimmage this offseason. There is not going to be a third one. So some notes out of you've seen some notes out of the most recent scrimmage. What were your biggest takeaways that you saw from the most recent scrimmage?
The number one thing that I took away from all the reports, I was reading, stuff by Connor Riley and Mike Griffith and all those great folks. Apparently Juan Gaston is like about to win that guard job. From what I saw everywhere is not everywhere. From what I saw from the 3 or 4 articles that I read, is that the offense looked a lot better when he was out there, and I think that's really interesting. The narrative around him this whole offseason is like, yeah, he's a 5-star recruit, but he's way too overweight and he has to get into playing shape. And I think he came in at like 380 or something, and they were like, dude, that's too much. You have to get that down. And I think he's shed somewhere between 25 and 30 pounds if the reports are to be believed. And if he gets into playing shape and he's a starter right away, that's very interesting, because I think the last true freshman that started on Georgia's offensive line was Andrew Thomas. And so
is that right? We gotta go back that far.
I believe that's what I saw. And it sounds right. I mean, I can't think of anybody else. There might have been a redshirt freshman, but
I know Isaiah Wilson was a redshirt freshman following year.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's a huge deal, George. I mean, we have so many questions about this interior offensive line, and the tackles are flipping sides, and you have Micah Morris finally stepping as a full-time starter. Drew Bobo's a starter. It's like, who's going to be that other guard? And if Daniel Calhoun really did get hurt in the spring and it's just going to cost him the job, that really sucks for him. But if Juan Gaston is a guy that's earned the job, then he's earned the job, and I'm excited to see what he does.
Yeah, and I think that is huge, and I think his recruiting profile lists him at 6'7", 360. Juan Gaston out of Westlake, like just insane, insanely huge human being. But yeah, maybe I'm not saying you're wrong that he showed up at 380. That's absurd. That's a huge human being. I think you're hearing that, and you've seen this in recent years too for Georgia, that they kind of like to rotate 3 guys at 2 spots.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's Fairchild, Ratledge, and Micah Morris a year ago. I was literally talking about this yesterday, and I should have looked this up because I was blanking on the rotation that Amarius Mims was always in. Was it Warren McClendon, Amarius Mims, and then one other guy that tackle? It seemed they kind of rotate 3 guys at the 2 tackle spots.
Was it like Warren Erickson? Like, or was that too?
No, because he would have been a guard.
Yeah, Warren Erickson would have been gone. I mean, I
was blanking. You got anything?
Like Ernest Green was on the roster at that time. I don't think he was playing though.
So that could have been Ernest Green, Mims, and McClendon. I know Broderick Jones was kind of when he was.
Well, dude, was it Willock?
Oh, wait, he was a guard though, wasn't he?
He was a tackle.
So it could have been. Man, I'm totally blanking on it. And like you've seen, like Georgia kind of progressed that next star, like Broderick Jones kind of was that 3rd tackle, before he kind of took over, and Amarius Mims kind of that 3rd tackle before he took over. Like, so it's interesting for Juan Gaston just be kind of thrown in there not saying thrown in there like he didn't earn the job or anything. So for him to take that job as a true freshman, like that could be massive. Hopefully it's a good thing. Hopefully it's not because Georgia doesn't trust any of the guys at guard, and they're going to bring in this freshman, and hopefully, we'll see what happens. But from what it sounds like I was saying with that 3-man rotation, it sounds like Micah Morris, Juan Gaston, and Michael Uini is going to kind of be that 3-man rotation at guard, with Bobo holding down the center spot. And I think Cortez Smith, the true freshman, sounds like from Parkview is the number 2 center so far, at least in this most recent scrimmage. And then who are the tackles? It was Jaw Jackson and Bo Hughley, I think, were the second stringers at the tackle spot. So like recruiting rankings wise, like that should be a really solid 2 deep. But I think we're just were a little shell shocked with what happened last year of like this offensive line was not very good, and now we just lost 3 dudes to the NFL. Surely, just being the University of Georgia, this O line's got to get better this year. But I think if Juan Gaston is an impact player, that could go a long way.
Yeah, and I'm not an offensive line coach or anything by any means, but I do feel like a part of the reason that Georgia's offensive line kind of underachieved last year, when you look at the fact that they had like 3 day 2 picks on the interior and the running game wasn't that good, is they not only did they have a ton of injuries, but I think maybe it was a bit of that guard rotation that they kept doing combined with the injuries that just prevented them from getting into a rhythm and finding their groove as a unit. And like, I don't think people understand like how important it is to just have your offensive line getting reps together, like not when I say people, I mean, the average fan. I don't mean coaches, of course, but like you just never really saw the offensive line click last year with Georgia at any point, despite how talented they were. And I think it's just because they didn't have enough reps together, that group of 5 dudes. So I'd almost rather see Georgia, I understand early in the season they have these 2 cupcake games and they're going to use them to rotate guys and figure things out. But I would like to see them, develop a 5 that they stick to for the most part. And I understand, a lot of that is you crossing your fingers that there's not an injury. But barring injury, I would like to see Georgia really come up with their 5-man front and stick to it, because I think that goes a long way in terms of just building a rapport as a unit and being a complete 5-man unit, which I don't really think we saw them last year really have.
Yeah, I think you're right. Just a cohesive group like just goes a long way. I mean, and who knows if we're looking at like wherever Ernest Green and Monroe Freeland get drafted, assuming they get drafted, we're gonna look back at that 2024 O line that it just the whole was not equal to the sum of the parts. It clearly for whatever reason just didn't click. Maybe it's the injuries, maybe it's just whatever it was, it just didn't work. And so hopefully there's improvement on that in 2025. I think we've talked about stargazing in the past, and the scrimmage isn't the end all be all, but the fact that Ellis Robinson got the start in the second scrimmage, I think that's one of the things I'm more excited about. When I hear to bash Daniel Harris or anything, he could still be a solid contributor for Georgia. I've seen people talking about like every catch that was made in the scrimmage, it seemed to be caught on Daniel Harris. No shade thrown at Daniel Harris. Apparently he had a great spring. Dude's a ridiculous athlete, like 6'4" or something at that corner spot. Just looks huge. But Ellis Robinson, there's not many guys that have a pedigree of 5-star number 1 player in the country. And I think the fact that if he has grabbed that second corner spot, I just think a lot more Georgia fans feel a lot more comfortable about that secondary. Rightly or wrongly, really.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's again, you never want to just like freak out about a guy's rating, but like at the end of the day, I mean, Ellis Robinson was a top 3 recruit and he has everything that you could want physically. He looks the part and all that. And even if he hasn't, completely won the number 2 corner job, which I would really be surprised if right now Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann are sitting together saying, yeah, we're going to start Ellis Robinson and Daniel Harris is going to be the backup. I don't think it's that simple. But I do think that him getting the start on the second scrimmage, which, yeah, like you said, is like the more important one generally, I think that shows that he's just going to play more last year. I think it shows that he's going to be not a complete. He was virtually a non-factor last year. I mean, let's just say it. Like he didn't really play. When he did play, it was in garbage time, and he looked pretty good in garbage time. But you look good in garbage time. It's like there's only so much you can take away from that. So, yeah, that's a very welcome sign, and I'm with you, man. I'm really hoping we get more Ellis Robinson ball in 2025. Would be very surprised if he's just like the week 1 starter right away and just plays the whole year because, yeah, Daniel Harris is also just a good player too. But Georgia's got a pretty good problem to have at that other corner spot right now. So it'll be cool to see what they do with it during the season because I really don't know. I mean, it's you want to just always have your best 5 DBs on the field, and I really don't know what that is for them. It'll be very cool to see what that secondary ends up taking, what shape it ends up taking.
For sure. And I think Adrian Maddox got the start opposite KJ Bolden in this one. So maybe he's got a step up on. Yeah, at the other safety.
Okay, interesting.
And then Aguero was at star, I believe, right? Are you hearing something different?
That's what I thought. Okay. Yeah. Maddox, that's interesting because Maddox has been the one of the 3 guys that transferred in. They've been saying that Maddox is the one that's going to play star. So that's interesting that they've got him playing safety.
Yeah, that is. So I don't know. Maybe that room is still a little fluid, and we'll see what happens with Jaden Harris and with Zion Branch. Maybe things change there. But one name we have not mentioned at all, who apparently was getting starter reps at outside linebacker, was Chris Jones, the redshirt freshman out of Virginia. Like, we haven't even mentioned this guy's name. And it's like, I mean, this guy, you look at his recruiting profile, he's the 127th ranked player in the country coming out of Virginia a year ago, 132 in the composite. Like, this is clearly a big time player. Maybe this is just the embarrassment of riches that Georgia has in the recruiting game. But like, I think this is someone we haven't even mentioned at all. And he might even start at that outside linebacker position. Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe this guy's coming in practice, or maybe we're right to be really worried about the outside linebacker position because this guy wasn't really on our radar. Outside of Elo Mendozi, we really don't know what the rest of that group's going to look like.
Yeah, that's definitely something that's kind of out of left field, because I always thought that Chris Jones was like strictly an inside linebacker. But I guess, I mean, they do just cross-train guys all the time, so maybe I should have just figured. But yeah, at this point in the year, it's an interesting thing to be like, yeah, this guy that no one has heard of or no one talks about is all of a sudden getting these first-team reps and things like that. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm with you. I feel like you think that screams more, we don't know what we have, or, wow, this guy's really good, he came out of nowhere. I kind of feel like it's more of the former.
Well, and it's hard to say a guy. It's hard to say a guy came out of nowhere when he is a top 130 recruit coming out of high school, and he is just in his second year on campus. So it's not exactly. I'm sure this guy's not surprised, to be starting. His family's not surprised if he's a potential starter. Like, this is clearly big time, but I think with what Georgia's room was and some of the more highly ranked players come out of high school, whether it's Isaiah Gibson or something who is a true freshman. Or I guess his high school ranking is probably higher than someone like Quintavious Johnson, who's probably still going to play a lot in that spot.
They were probably
yeah, maybe around the same. Just something, a 4-star, top 200, top 150 recruit or so. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think we don't know what to expect. That defensive line group, you heard a little more about Elijah Griffin this most recent scrimmage as well. Like, he made a couple plays, so. I'm excited to just see this team actually get on the field. And then the running back position is the other one that, you heard Dwight Phillips apparently had a nice run in the scrimmage for a touchdown. Chauncey Bowens is apparently, had his best weeks of practice the last couple weeks. And Bo Walker is still kind of creating a buzz there, the true freshman. Like, it feels like, I don't know that this backfield, like from a top end is better than last year, but man, it is about 5 times deeper. It feels like it feels like Roderick Robinson right now is like your 6th running back or so, when he was kind of being relied to be like maybe number 2 or 3 coming into last year. So I think, and I still think Roderick Robinson has talent. I don't know if Georgia can rely on him because of some of his injury history, but it feels like there is a lot of question marks, but they're starting to feel like good question marks. Like, we just don't know who it is, but whoever it is, it feels like they have that ability.
Right. Yeah, and without saying too much about our predictions that we made that we'll talk about in a minute, that was the biggest thing that, like, just looking at the running back room and reading all the names, like you said, that was my thing that I realized is like, wow, this is a much deeper room than it was, a year ago. Because think about it, last year, you had both of the Robinsons in that backfield, but neither of them were really around that whole season. I mean, Roger Robinson was virtually out for the whole year. I know he came in for a little bit. Same thing with Brandon, but those guys were basically not available. Cash Jones is a backfield threat type of guy, to use a college football 26 term. I mean, he's a receiving guy out of the backfield. He's not going to give you a ton as a runner. And then you had ETN with his injury. So like it really got to a point where it was Nate Frazier, true freshman, and then it was like, we'll put Dylan Bell in sometimes, and that doesn't seem like running back is a position. I mean, it's the most tackled position in the sport. You're going to have injuries at the running back position every single year. I'm sure that this year will be no different. But like, I agree. I mean, Georgia has a pretty good contingency plan against injury, on account of the fact that they have like 5 or 6 different running backs that you and I can sit here and say, yes, we can see this guy having a role this season, which was not the case last year.
For sure. And Trevor Etienne, like we knew we were all excited for him to come to Georgia last year. I don't think we knew he was going to be clearly head and shoulders our best running back and arguably our best offensive playmaker last year, right? You knew that. And Etienne was a stud. And I'm super disappointed that Etienne went pro and didn't come back for his senior year for just what this backfield could have been. But yeah, I think you're starting to see there's some guys there that have the ability. So maybe not Trevor Etienne, but maybe we'll still be all right.
Yeah, it really is unfortunate to lose Etienne because I thought he could really stand to have a great year coming back. But I guess the silver lining of him leaving is now you have all these other young players who have that door is now open for. Not only is Nate Frazier, we think, a guy who's going to take a big leap, but then that frees up Chauncey Bowens and Dwight Phillips, 2 guys who didn't really get a lot of playing time last year. That opens the door for Bo Walker, a true freshman, to get some carries. Like there are guys that can pick up the slack. Etienne's a great player, and we wish him success in Carolina. But Georgia, I feel maybe not better about Georgia's running backs than I did last year, because last year there was a known commodity going in Etienne, who's a guy that we watched be a pretty good player for Florida, and we knew that he could be a good player. But this year, I feel like the unknowns with most position groups, the unknowns kind of scare me. But at running back, I kind of like the fresh legs,
I hear you there, and like you said, we'll get into that more when we get into our 2025 season prediction. But anything else from the most recent scrimmage that you want to highlight?
No, not a ton. I guess just on the quarterback front, there were reports that all 3 of them looked pretty good, and they were all moving the ball. So, I think it's worth noting that there's not one of the 3 quarterbacks between Montgomery, Stockton, and Puglisi has not been like notably bad in fall camp, which I think is a good sign, because we would have probably heard about it by now if that was the case, and that's not been reported. So the backup quarterback situation should not be a complete disaster this season, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like, there's no real competition. It's Gunner's job. And hopefully this guy is ready to go next Saturday.
Yeah, we will see. They're not going to name him the starter, though. We're going to have to wait.
Yeah, I guess not. The plan is there is no plan, I think Kirby Smart once said, but that quote didn't age as good as some of Kirby's other lines. But
he's got some bars.